Hi everyone, welcome to the Dolly Room. Today I am going to demonstrate how to make this little crochet beanie. As you can see, it fits a Blythe doll as well as an 18-inch doll. This is an American Girl doll, but pretty much any of the 18-inch dolls this will probably fit. I have this little raccoon down here because this is an example of a technique called amigurumi. I made this using a technique called amigurumi, and that is basically crocheting in the round. And you can see if you look at the top of his head, it looks very similar to the top of this little beanie. This is a little pattern that I have whipped up myself. It has not been tested as far as technical or any kind of gauge checking or anything like that, so I will put that disclaimer out there. Your gauge can vary. I tend to crochet sort of a bit on the loose side. All right, to make this crochet beanie, I will be using some sport weight yarn. This in particular is called Brava Sport from Knit Picks, but I think I used Bernat Baby Soft for this, and I don't remember what I used for this, but pretty much any sport weight sort of yarn is going to work. You will also need a large needle with a big eye so that you can weave in your ends at the end. I'm using a size G crochet hook. I will be using American terminology as far as crochet goes. This is a G, like I said, 4.25 millimeter. I also like to have a couple of stitch markers. I usually use both these kind of locking stitch marker. I use this one for when I'm just going around and around and around and I'm not adding or subtracting any stitches. And this one I use because it's removable, and if I'm adding or subtracting stitches and I have to take it off a lot, this tends to be a little bit, I think, easier to use. And then of course you want a pair of scissors. So those are going to be your basic supplies for this. I would recommend that you try it out and have a doll handy so you can kind of check your gauge as you go. And if you start to notice that you are maybe too tight or too loose, you can adjust it from there. You can always make it bigger. You can always make it smaller if you need to. So yeah, let's get started. I will show you how to make one of these super cute little beanie hats. So in order to complete this hat, I use the following stitches: chain stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and slip stitch. And like I said, I'm using the American terminology. All right, so I'm going to start with what's called a sloppy slip knot. And basically, you can see I have the yarn here. I just wrap it around my hook and twist one time. Pull each piece of yarn apart, and you'll see that you can move your hook up and down. And now I'm going to do 2 chain stitches, 1, 2, and now I'm going to do 6 single crochet in the first chain stitch that I made. All right, so you'll see at this point that your tail, my tail is actually a little on the short side. You want to have it at least probably, you know, anywhere from 4 to 6 inches long, because you're going to have to, at the end, you're going to put your yarn on this needle and weave it in. So you need to have enough room to move around. So don't make it like super duper short or you're going to be hurting at the end. All right, so you see my tail's in there. I'm just going to pull the tail out, and I'm going to hold on to, pull the tail all the way out. And now I hold on to this because we don't want that big hole, because otherwise that would be in the center. We're working from the center out. That's the center of the hat, so you don't want a big hole in your hat. So what I do next is I hold on to the little circle just very gently. No pressure really, and I'm going to pull on this to close up that hole. And there we go, like magic, there's no hole. All right, now I'm going to, so I have 6 single crochets, And now I'm going to do 2 single crochets in each of the 6 single crochets going in the same direction. With amigurumi you go around and around in the same direction, and that's the technique we're using here. So I'm going to do, and I go in the back loop. I like to use, in fact, before I do that, I should mention why I like to go into the back loop when I start doing this. And that is because when you crochet in the back loop, you're going to end up with lines like this. I like the look of that, and I find it useful for when I'm trying to count how many rows I have. The rows are very visible because of these lines on your hat. And that's not a requirement. If you don't want to go through the back loop and you prefer to go through both loops, that's fine. But I go through the back. Alrighty, 2 single crochets. This is hard to do with the camera in front of me, but I'm persevering. 1, 2. All right, I'm going to go all the way around until I have 12 single crochets in the round. All right, so just to double check, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. See those little V's? I have 12 stitches. This is where I like to put on this type of stitch marker, and I just hook it right onto that stitch. Okay, so we've got the first 2 rows done. So the next row, row number 3, we're going to continue to increase, but we're going to do 2 single crochets in a stitch and then 1 single crochet in the stitch afterwards, alternating 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 until we have a total of 18 stitches. 1, 2 in that first stitch, and then 1 in the next stitch, all right, so let's double check that I have 18 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Put my stitch marker back in. So that's row 3. We have 18 stitches. The next row we're going to do 2 single crochet in 1 stitch and 2 single crochets in a single stitch. So 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. All the way around. Oops, put the right side in there. So you do 1, 2 in the first stitch, and then in the next 2 stitches you just do 1, 2. All right, I'm going to do that all the way around, and at the end I should have 24 stitches. Right, now we have 24 stitches. You can see we're getting a circle. Our circle is growing. The next row we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch. 1, 2, and then a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do that all the way around till you get back to your stitch marker, and you will have 30 stitches. All right, moving on to the next row. As you can imagine, or you're probably guessing at this point, you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, followed by a single crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and repeat that all the way around. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 till you get to that stitch marker. All right, I finished row 6. You can see again we're growing in our circle, and now row 7, you guessed it, you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1, 2, followed by a single crochet in the next 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, like watching paint dry, huh? And 5. All right, I'm going to repeat that all the way around. 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5 till I get to my stitch marker, and I'll be right back. All right, I finished that row. I have a total of 42 stitches, and I'm going to move on to row number 8, which is 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and you guessed it, 6, or 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So again, I'm going to do that all the way around. 2, 6, 2, 6, 2, 6 till I get to the stitch marker, and I will have 48 stitches at that point. I'll be right back. At this point, I've done all 8 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, you can count them all because I got those little lines. And I've switched out my stitch marker with the locking stitch marker, because at this point I'm just going to jam on it, and I'm going to do 10 rows of single crochet. I'm not going to increase anymore. I'm just going to go around and around and around for 10 rows. And as I do this, the hat will start to, you can see it's curved a little bit, but the hat will start to grow and grow more into a tube shape. Now, I will again make a disclaimer that everybody's gauge is different. I have not done a test swatch to create a gauge count or anything for this. This is just a little freebie. Your miles may vary, especially if you have, if you're tighter or you're looser when you're crocheting. If you use different yarn, even if you use sport weight yarns can vary in dimension. Unfortunately, yarn thicknesses are not very standardized in the industry, so they can change quite a bit. So anyway, I would recommend maybe doing a few rows and kind of testing it on a doll before you do 10 full rows. But yeah, at this point, you're just going to, I'll just put my hook back in there and literally do single crochet. Whoops. Try that again. Literally do single crochet all the way around. And I will probably do this tonight while I'm watching television. When I'm watching Wheel of Fortune, I will do 10 rows on this hat. And like I said, every once in a while it might be good to do a couple rows and just see how the fit is going on your doll. But once I get all those rows done, I will be back to show you the final row. Alright, so I took off the locking stitch marker that I had. I'm putting one of these other stitch markers here. I just have to do one more row, so it's not a huge deal. I'm going to chain 1. And now I'm going to do a half double crochet stitch in the next stitch, again moving through the back loop so I can create that kind of ridge there. Oops, come on. This yarn is splitting on me. And I just continue to do half double crochet stitches all the way around the hat as my last row. Let me do one more. To do this with the camera in front of me, so it's pretty awkward. Alrighty, so you can see how that's starting to look. Alright, so I'm going to do it all the way around, and then I'll come back at this point and show you how to finish off the hat. Alright, I have done my last row. I took off my stitch marker. You can see it's a little bit higher up here still. So what I'm going to do is this next stitch, I'm going to do again, go through the back loop, and I'm just going to do a single crochet stitch. And now I'm going to do a slip stitch. I'm going to do another slip stitch, and this is just so that it kind of eases into a straighter line there. And I'm going to trim off. All right, pull it out, and then I'm going to go through the next loop and just pull. There it is. So now we have to weave in our ends. We have this end, and don't forget we have one in the center. I put a large-eyed needle onto the tail, and I'm just going to kind of weave it through a few places. I don't knot. I'm anti-knot when it comes to crochet, because if the knot comes out, then your work comes out. It's better to weave than to knot, but that's everybody's personal choice. Alright, that looks good enough to me. Trim it off. We've got that one done. I'm just going to do the other one, same kind of deal. Right, so here is the beanie hat on one of my dolls. Like I said, it fits Neo Blythe size dolls as well as 18-inch dolls for the most part. And I hope you guys take some time and try out this little pattern for yourselves and see what you think about it. Like I said, be careful about the gauge. Gauge can always change. But the basic stitches should still work for you. It's basically, like I said, it's an amigurumi technique where you're just crocheting in the round. So yeah, you guys have a nice dolly day. Please make sure to give me a thumbs up and share and like and yeah, subscribe. Bye-bye.